Hey guys, my name is Tiyasa Guha, and as a part of my assignment, I'm here to talk about the ocean dead zones. The ocean is a life source that we cannot afford to be without. Often imagining the ocean, we tend to think of the hypnotizing sounds of crashing waves, the serene brutality, and the sight of birds in flight that stirs the heart to inspire imagination. From the shores, the ocean seemed like a never ending oasis of beautiful waters to human eye. There is an adventure found in the ocean, both above and below the surface. We love exploring the depths of ocean below by means of scuba diving to see the coral reefs and schools of fish. Now imagine if below the water there was no such beauty to behold. Everything would be still and lifeless, with overgrown algae surrounded by dead fish and other plants and aquatic species. That would be a horrible sight to envision. But these sorts of areas do exist, and we call them the dead zone. According to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, dead zones or hypnotic zones can occur naturally. But scientists studying these regions are concerned about the areas created or enhanced by human activities. There are many physical, chemical, and biological factors that combine to create dead zones, but nutrient pollution is the primary cause of these zones created by humans. Any environment depletion is not caused by a single factor. Rather, various elements interact with each other to influence the course of events. Some of the causes some of the causes of ocean zones are as follows. Number 1, eutrophication. As the water heats up from climate changes, there are more dead zones that are forming because of eutrophication. Eutrophication is how the underwater environment reacts to pollutants from runoff that comes from land and leads to the overabundance of nutrients, encouraging the overgrowth of algae. Number 2, algal overgrowth. From the previous point, the algal overgrowth blocks the light from sun, and the blocking of sunlight is harmful to creatures underground. When sunlight hits the edge of water, it absorbs deeply into the ground, encouraging plants in the ocean to grow. As this process is disrupted, the cycle of life below water comes to a halt, causing numerous deaths to species. Number 3, excess nutrient. While nutrients can be healthy, too many nutrients are a form of pollution that lead to death of organic food sources and destroys natural habitats. Too many nitrogen and phosphorus in water causes algae to grow faster than ecosystem can handle. Nitrogen also goes back to the atmosphere and create more pollution that is damaging to people and environment and ruins our drinking water. Number 5, cyanobacteria. The algae that is most responsible for dead zones is called cyanobacteria, a type of algae that is allowed to flourish because of nitrogen and phosphorus material that continue to fill in the ocean as a result of marine pollution. Additionally, fish and other underwater species cannot eat this sort of algae. The most important example of dead zone is the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico is the largest recurring hypoxic zone in the United States. The Mississippi River, which is the drainage area of 41% of the continental United States, dumps high nutrient runoff such as nitrogen and phosphorus into the Gulf of Mexico. The discharge of treated sewage from urban areas combined with agricultural runoff approximately 1.7 million tons of phosphorus and nitrogen into the Gulf of Mexico every year. The first reported dead zone in Mexico was in the year 1950, but it wasn't until 1970, when the size of the hypoxic zone had increased, that scientists began to investigate. The area of hypoxic region varies annually. The highest recorded area so far is more than 22,730 square kilometers. That was recorded in 2017. Some assert that the dead zone threatens lucrative commercial and recreational fisheries in Gulf of Mexico. Such disasters are bound to have numerous effects. The effects of dead zones have a major effect on what happens in the aquatic species. Number 1. Invisible trap. Ocean dead zone is an invisible trap that there is no escaping from for the marine life. These life forms cannot detect dead zones before entering the areas. Unfortunately, once they wander into the dead zone, it's hard to escape and survive. The oxygen shortage causes them to lose consciousness and they die shortly after. Number 2. Changes in biology of species. Fish suffer greatly from dead zones because the extreme changes in the oxygen level causes changes in their entire biology. Their organs become smaller, meaning they cannot reproduce or function in the necessary ways that allow them to flourish. The less biodiversity that exists underground, the more the balance of ocean is disrupted. This also leads to economic instability for local fishermen. Number 3. Seafood. We should also consider the fact that many of us choose to eat seafood instead of meat for health purposes. If sea animals are poisoned in their natural habitat, then they will become unsafe for consumption and will no longer be a viable option for food. As a result, our economy would also be forced to place a strain on other food sources. After being aware of the causes and deadly effects of the dead zones comes the most important part, the solutions. Number 1. Better practices and accountability. Oftentimes, chemicals are not disposed of properly and our oceans are not made of these materials. Liquid chemicals poured down the drain into bodies of water cannot be filtered out. The chemicals that we combine with water for cleaning and other purposes are also part of the runoff that destroys the life cycle of ocean. Number 2. Sewage treatment. We need to pay attention to where we let our sewage direct itself and what we allow to absorb into the ground. We should use much less fertilizer when farming anywhere that is close to water bodies, as industrial farming practices encourage the existence of dead zones. Number 3. Reduction of trash in oceans. Treating the oceans like large trash cans negatively affects us all because of it creates toxicity. Because the ocean cannot break down much of the trash material, the water is polluted. Animals choke on unfamiliar material, and because the water is poisoned, it kills various marine animals. Number 4. Less use of NPK. Farmers use phosphorus and nitrates to grow their crops, which eventually seeps into large rivers, and this runoff is poisonous. If farmers knew the damage that is done to agriculture as a result of poisoning the ocean, they could change the way they work and find alternative approaches that don't contribute to ruining the environment. Number 5. Raise awareness. Explaining to others the importance of keeping the ocean clean can help encourage positive habits. On a personal level, we can adhere to a sustainable lifestyle. Then, we can reduce the dead zones that are created. As we recycle, many of the items that are discarded in landfills or other random areas will not be able to go into the ocean and alter the balance of water. So, guys, now that we are aware of the horrors that churn below the surface, I hope we can do our part in preserving the voice of seas. Thank you.